All right, you guys, good morning. First of all, I was scheduled for yesterday at 11 a.m. I apologize, I didn't get a chance to hop on. I had a whole bunch of stuff hit me at the same time on that day or yesterday. And so again, I apologize, no excuses. I'm here making it up to you guys and to give value to our tribe and make sure we go all in on this. So I have a few questions real quick. I'm gonna start with, hopefully the sound is good. It should be good. I have my wife checked on it. So I have a couple questions and I want to dive into some other questions here that was brought up. But I'm excited. I'm excited for this tribe. I see that it's been growing. I've been watching the content has been, the value has been that's been bringing to the table, and the tribe has been growing. And in fact, I have about 10 people I'm referring to Sean that can be part of the tribe. So anyway, excited about that. So let me start with the first question here with Gabs Ras. And he has two questions here. So one is, what do you think the best way to communicate a price increase to customers, clients? And he said, I have a specific case in mind. We're selling a monthly magazine and we're about to increase the price for a few months. We'll keep a yearly subscription price the same. The primary channel, hold on, sorry. He has a bunch of primary channel. Okay, got it. So he says, how do we communicate a price increase? And he's gonna keep the subscription the same. And I think on any, hey Gabs, you're there, perfect. So on any price increase, keep in mind, when you ever wanna charge any kind of monetary, we live in a place now where you gotta give value first, you gotta serve first. And so I think if you can you give more value to your clients, I don't think it's an issue. And I think you just need to be upfront and honest why you need to charge more, and let them know the service that you're going to be rendering, right? So in any amount, I mean, even in Think and Grow Rich, it talks about when you create a business plan, it talks about, so for example, by December 31st, 2018, right, I intend to have $1.5 million, which will come to me in various amounts during time to time during the interim in return for the service I'm willing to render, right? And then you give this, and this. And so I think it's just being clear on what your the value you're bringing, and you make sure that the value is more than the price. And I don't think it's an issue. And obviously you got to communicate it to the consumer there. And I know you had another great question here about. You have another question here regarding to, could you share some best practices on working with sales agents in remote location when personal meetings are absolutely off the table? I have two people working on expanding my company to a new country, and I get the feeling that we have a lot of room to improve when it comes to communicating. I don't want to make them feel like breathing down their necks because they're independent agents after all. But I do want to exercise a fair bit of control. Our weekly Skype meetings at consistent time is a good idea. Is it a good idea? I also send them a lot of written materials and info sheets that can be used to learn everything about our services. But I also like to test how well they've done their homework. Would you recommend doing a mock sales presentation where I'd act as a prospect? And so, would I recommend doing a mock presentation? All day long. I would do that before sending them to any country or any expansion. I would make sure they're prepped up and ready to go before expanding. And we do that all the time. We do a lot of role plays. Keep in mind, when it comes to, if there was a cone of learning, the lowest level of learning is basically reading, right? After that, it's listening, and then it's discussion, and then it's role playing, and then it's the real thing. And so when it comes to that, anything closest to the real thing, which is a simulated practice program, a role-playing, a mock demonstration is similar to the real thing, then obviously you increase your skill level. And then there's also a saying, you want to inspect what you expect. So if you expect a certain amount of results from them, then you want to inspect, right? So that's part of inspecting your business. Doesn't matter if they're independent or not. I have over 800 independent licensed agents in our business, and they got you. If you're the leader, you're the leader. I mean, so you're leading them to make better income. You're leading them to drive their sales up. So obviously you got a responsibility, and they have a responsibility, and you're still the owner of the business. So regardless whether they're independent or not, they're under your leadership. And so I don't know if that helps, but definitely doing mock presentation. The more communication you have, and you can do mock presentations virtually. You can do that virtually, right? And I would have as you grow the sales team from 2 to 10. You mentioned you wanted to grow the sales team from 2 to 10. I'd make sure I would put put a competitive environment there. I mean, I don't know if you could do it with 2, but as you grow it to 10 to 30 and more, then you can add some competition there on who's doing better. And part of that is constant communication on results, where people are at, where they're at on a daily basis, accountability, right? And then it's posted in some sort of platform where everybody gets a chance to hear it. It's your form of recognition. You post the leaders board twice a week, or whatever it might be, however often you want to do. But the more often it is, obviously I tell my people in sales, I go, man, the more, most people, when they're at 0 or they're at 1 or they're at 2 or their numbers are low, they avoid looking at the numbers, or they avoid seeing it in front of them. And so you want to own up to the 0 so you can move past the 0, right? So the challenge with most people, they avoid it. Just similar to, if someone was gaining weight, like I was, at one point I had increased my weight quite a bit, and I found out I was avoiding the mirror, right? So I was avoiding the mirror when I go to the bathroom. Actually, I would look from the neck up, but I wouldn't look down at my belly. And so those are just a couple of things in regards to that, where people a lot of times avoid awareness, avoid reality, because it basically induces pain, and when there's pain, usually change takes place. And so you got to embrace pain. So the same thing in business, you got to embrace pain and move to the next level. So if there's anything you want to ask in between that, Gabs, type it up. I'm reading your all of your texts here, all your comments. I mean, so anyway, I want to go through a couple questions here, or several questions, and then if there's nothing else, I'll wrap up with that. But and again, I apologize for not being able to show up with you guys yesterday on schedule, but I wanted to make it up and make sure I logged in within 24 hours. So here we are today. So I'm actually going to Nashville next weekend. I asked Sean if he was going to be there. I guess he's in California, I'm in Nashville, so we're doing a old switcheroo. But I'm meeting with one of my good friends, is a co-founder of Yard House. We're meeting up over there, talking some business. He's heavy in the restaurant industry still. It's kind of neat. He sold the first portion of Yard House. 70% of Yard House was sold, and it was approximately, don't quote me on these numbers, but they're approximately 30 million. It's public, you can Google it, but approximately for $30 million. And obviously that first 30 million they needed badly, because they've been struggling this whole time. And then they had 30% stake left on the company, and they sold that. And I think the number is excess of, I think it's excess of 300 million, if I'm not mistaken. If not, if it's a little bit more, it might be 600. And I don't have the exact stats right now. But anyway, the point is, the last 30 sold like 20 multiples from the first 70%, which is insane. And so as you scale and grow your business, it's kind of neat to see what happens. And he's doing that with a bunch of businesses right now that we're going to be discussing, along with some financial planning platform stuff. So anyway, let me raise some great questions here. These are courtesy of Sean. Hit me up. Okay, I'll hit you up when I'm in Nashville. Message me if you want. Sean post some 4 great questions here, so I just wanted to cover all 4 of them, and then we'll wrap up. The first one, are there any special places for networking that you have found that work better than others as it relates to recruiting? And so any kind of network, I think I made it hand in hand, because with events that we do, me and my wife are big in personal growth and personal development. So I treat that as a networking event. I don't like to waste time. I don't like to just chat around and, you know, have a couple, spend a whole day and get numbers. But if I'm in a position where I can grow, improve, and be better, or learn one idea to implement in my business while I'm meeting people, then I think, so that's what we've done over the past. And the reason I share that is because the next question that Sean put, and which I'll tie it into both, is how important is it, in your opinion, to attend conferences throughout the year? And so we go at least one every 90 days, just so you know. So once every quarter. If we miss one, I mean, we're doing 3 events a year, but once every quarter, sometimes even, you know, once every quarter we go on a personal improvement, game-changing life event, and sometimes we'll get a lot from it, sometimes a little. I just went to an event that was world-class speakers, but the way the event was put together was very, you know, it was okay. It was lousy, but the speakers were great, so it attracted me to head out there and attend. But I treat that as one thing. So we'll go meet a bunch of people. For example, we met at least 60, so at least 50 to 60 people at the event. And so whether we do business or not, whether there's a transaction that comes out of it, I've increased my contacts. You know, so in business, I think it's a contact sport, because you never know who you're going to be connected to. Just this morning, prior to this live, I just got a referral from somebody that I met 3 years ago, and we just stayed in contact. And what's neat now with the social media game, with Facebook, Instagram, even though you're not talking to each other on a daily basis, you're still connected, right? You're still in touch with each other. You're still connected. And so he's been following our progress, following what's going on. And he goes, and then they do a men's group church, and there was a guy that fit the profile to be in business with me. So he called me up and connected us, and he's a guy that lives right in Orange County down the street. And so it's perfect. We just opened up a location there, so he referred him to me. So these are, I mean, obviously I'm into building lots of contacts. You know, me and my wife enjoy doing it. We enjoy making new friends and enjoying new contacts. Obviously you can't be great friends with everybody, but it's a contact, right? It's a contact for whatever it might be. And so, but personal improvement, let me touch on personal improvement. So obviously you're networking, getting contacts. Let's talk about personal improvement, or conferences throughout the year. It's probably the biggest shift that me and my wife has done, because think about it, I started in business at 22 years old. So there's a lot of wisdom that I didn't have. I mean, unlike a lot of you guys have 10, 20, 30 years of wisdom, or at least a previous career you can relate to. I mean, I did real estate for a little bit. That was 4 years. You know, so we had a little bit, but it wasn't a lot. I struggled a lot in leadership. I was able to drive myself, but obviously to influence others is another token. So I struggled in that portion of the business for about a good 5 years but a lot of it was, again, these conferences that I attend, whether it's John Maxwell or any kind of conference that led to me being able to influence more people. And so here's a saying I want to leave with, I want to drop with you guys. And you know, I believe in working twice as hard on yourself than in your business. And I think if you had that philosophy throughout your career, then by a byproduct of that, and whether it's you, Gabs, I'm talking to, or the rest of the career, a byproduct of that is you give more value to people, right? You give more value to people. You're more aware. You're more conscious in your approach. And I think it's a great thing. And so conferences, I think, should be a ritual in your behavior. And this is a form of a conference. Or when you get invited to Nashville to spend some time with Sean, or whatever it might be, whatever conference that he puts together. So that's a form of a conference of personal growth. And I think that's a big deal. What you guys have access to here for $50 or whatever the monetary equivalent is right now is so small compared to the value you're giving. And that's what makes this platform so unique and so outstanding. Is there's no way, I wish I had this when I first got started. There's just no way. I paid thousands of dollars on Robert Kiyosaki and John Maxwell, Tony Robbins. I'm talking about, if I totaled up what I spent in my career over the past 15 years is hundreds of thousands of dollars. And to be part of to be part of an association like this, where there's a group of like-minded people headed towards the same direction. That's another, Tony Robbins charges 20, 30 grand to be part of that circle. And then you're paying flights and hotels and all sorts of stuff to meet them in different destinations of the world. So, but anyway, this is incredible value. So hopefully none of you guys take it for granted. You know, obviously Sean has done phenomenal in orchestrating this, facilitating this, and making sure that you guys got value. And I enjoy being here with you guys. So, all right, what's the next? So that answered that question. Another one is, if you have someone who is not performing well, what do you do to get that person performing better? So again, if you have someone that's not performing well, what do you do to get that someone to perform better? And this question can be kind of off and on. I mean, on the independent side, you know, most of my gals and girls are independent. They're independent contractors. So it's like leading a volunteer army. I mean, that's how I look at it. It's leading a volunteer army, and I think it's the purest form of leadership, because there's, you know, it's the purest form of leadership. You can't necessarily do certain things that you could reprimand on an employee or anything else. But yeah, so when it comes to that question, I think a highly competitive environment fixes a lot of that for non-performing people. I think if their colleagues are, even if they just got to a certain number, and you know, a leaders board would definitely help. Constant communication of what's going on in results and operations and what's going on in the business. But in the same token, obviously, you want to expect, what problem are they having in business? Is it work ethic? Is it skills? So I might have someone that shows up consistently, right? Works their butt off, right? They work up, they show up every day. And that was me in certain areas of the business. I showed up every day. I was hungry. I was willing to put in the time, the work, all of that stuff, but I just didn't have the right skill sets, or I didn't have all the right components. So I had to learn certain skill sets or certain adjustments. I learned all the basic skills, but once I got the presentation down, or once I got the language down in the business, there were some things that I needed to adjust in my approach or my delivery or certain thing. And I think it goes back to inspecting what you expect from your guys. And I don't know, I believe in feedback and you know, so there's certain things where you got to give feedback, and those guys have earned feedback. So for those of you guys that you guys have people that work their butt off and they consistently show up and they go all out, right, and they're not getting results, then obviously you owe them the feedback to make sure they got progress. Because in the end of the day, no progress, then you're going to lose your guys with no progress, and progress obviously equals cash flow or money for the company. So no progress, none of that. And so if it's a work ethic issue, maybe I'd drill on their willpower. Sometimes maybe there's a lack of willpower or desire, and maybe I find out what's important to them and remind them on why they're doing the business. Remind them on, you know, their driving force, and have them operate from that mindset, whether it's wanting to retire their mom, or wanting to get out of debt, or funding their dream wedding. I would communicate those things and find out what's important to them. It's the same way when we do a plan for a client, we remind them on what's important to them in their life, where they want to be 10 years out, 20 years out, and then we back up a financial plan to meet that. But anyway, I think that's a big deal. So if you have someone not performing, I think you got to figure out if it's a will issue or a skill issue, and then address it accordingly with the right feedback to either link them to their will or their why in the business, or on the skill side, teach them that if you have somebody that's driven, shows up every day, then it's not a will issue. They obviously have willpower, and they want to grow, they want to improve, they're hungry for more, and so you have that. So I would find out if it's a skill issue or a will issue, and address it accordingly to the skills that are necessary for your business. And will is nothing more than finding out what's important to them and then linking it to the results and progress in your business. All right, last one, and I'm wrapping up here. At what point do you hire a manager of your sales team so you can continue to focus on growing the business in other areas? And that's a great question. So there's a part in the business, in any business, there's working in your business and there's working on your business. So on your business, let me talk about in your business for a second. Working in your business is such things as doing the calls, doing the sales presentations, doing anything that basically moves the business. It can be tracking business, it can be operations, management, systems. That's working in the business. And in working on the business is where you take time, you sit back, maybe you smoke a cigar or have a cup of wine and think about the next idea for growth, for expansion, for the next level, for your creativity to come out as an entrepreneur, to expand, right? And so there's working in your business and working on your business. So when it comes to that, when is it time to hire a manager? I think when you scale it to about 20 to 30, I think a good number I look at it is 25 to 30. And you can even go less than that. I mean, if you have 10 of them that's full time, I think you have a manager, so you can focus on expansion and other stuff. But I think 10 or more in your organization, if they're full time. I have a lot of part-time people in my organization. That's why I say 30. So I think 30 if they're part-time, 10 if they're full-time. You should hire a manager. And again, it's the reason you hire a manager is so now you can work on your business versus in your business. And working on your business, it calls for exponential growth. Working in your business is a linear growth. So it's growth that that expands on a linear way, which is a slower growth. And obviously for a lot of us, we want to scale fast and grow, and you want exponential growth. And so anyway, those are my thoughts. Hopefully it helped, and thank you for spending the morning or whatever day you're going to be listening this live. For any questions, we're gonna post a date on the next live. Love to have your feedback from this live. I'd love to get your feedback from any comments down below here, and on how, maybe on either questions or feedback on what I mentioned or shared with you guys. So thank you guys for joining us again, and we will see you soon. We'll see you in the next live. Thank you.